Dr. Randall, the Soul Doctor, author of Soul Doctoring, Heal Yourself, Heal the Planet, shares her 40 years of experience as a cross-cultural practitioner, medical futurist, and expert in 20 different modalities of healing, along with amazing interviews with some of the leading minds in medicine and big thinkers in all walks of life. The stories of our lives are the woven energies of our soul's paths. They feed and ignite the spiritual light that nourishes the universal soul, the one mind, the cosmic consciousness where we all come together. This podcast is going to be a deep dive into the personal stories of people who have made significant contributions to the planet. What formed them? What moved them to become these leaders and innovators that inspire us so? Hello, Sam Bertram.
Hello, Doctor.
So good to see you. I miss our sessions and
I know, me too.
Discussions, but we'll have more of those. I want to introduce you first to my guest. I think Sam is a perfect example of what type of person I like to have on my show. And those are game changers. And what I mean by game changers are people that are really shaking the planet, to go in a better way, whether it be economically, whether it be ecologically, whether it be, and there really is no other thing right now other than planetary health. And I think he's a big player in that. And we're going to hear all about that from him. He is the co-founder and CEO, co-founder with his brother John of 1.1, which is the mother, may I say mother of Willow?
Yes.
Which is a vertical farm and probably it probably is the most advanced vertical farm in the world right now.
Yes.
And it puts out food, green food, organic like nothing else organic. I mean, truly organic. Mm-hmm. That has no heavy metals, toxicities, none of the little bit of organic, quote unquote, herbicides, pesticides, and fungicides that they allow on organic food. It is 100% clean.
Yes.
And I've been fortunate enough to be able to have some, and I can tell you, you can tell the difference. It tastes better. It stays in your refrigerator. Like, how is that lasting so long? Because it doesn't have anything on it,
Yes. Yes.
It's 99% less water it takes to grow this food. Mm. And it's way more economical, better for the earth, doesn't even interact with the earth really. Mm-hmm. And Sam will tell us about that, but it's all done robotically. And you really need to go on the website, willow.farm. Is it? Yes.
www.willow.farm, and then
isn't there an org or a com or some kind of dot?
There is also there is www.1.1.com. That is ONEPOINTONE.com, and that's where you really get a taste of the technology.
Yeah, and you can see the robotics and the plant, and it's beautiful to look at also. So here we are now, and here is Sam, and he's going to tell us about this amazing, I call it a future farming option. That's what I call it. That's what I called it in my book. And so where are you now with the whole project, Sam?
Sure. So we started in July 11th of 2017. My brother and I incorporated at the request of an investment coming in from Stanford University engineering faculty. And then over the last 3.5 years, almost 4 years now, we've been developing the technology to grow the highest quality plants on Earth. That's what it comes down to. The plants within themselves are fantastic. They're incredible organisms, and they are the basis of human health, as you and I both know very well. And all we are trying to do is to accentuate the most beneficial traits of these plants and then leverage them for the health of humanity, and do so in a way that is not harmful to the environment. That's as basic as I can go.
That's beautiful. So how did you ever come up with this idea? I know you're an expert in robotics, but how did you put plants and robotics together? How did that? How was that born in your head?
Yeah, it's a funny story.
Your heart,
I will say, the more you learn, the more you know you don't know. So I know robotics at a basic or intermediary level through the degree, and also through a number of the projects that we did. But we hire experts in robotics, that's for sure. Nonetheless, so John and I, we came to the United States. John came in 2010. I came in 2011. We both came here on tennis scholarships. We grew up playing tennis. That was, the core of our life, aside from our friendship group. And he went down to Santa Barbara, and I was in the Bay Area. I was at Santa Clara University. He was in Santa Barbara doing his pre-med in chemical physics, whatever on earth that means. And I did my undergraduate in mechanical engineering and my master's in robotics and mechatronics. John actually went over to Germany. He got a huge MCAT score. He's way, way smarter than I am. He got a huge MCAT score, and he dropped medicine to go into engineering and started an power engineering degree at the Technical University of Munich in Germany. And he won the Hyperloop competition at SpaceX. He was, one of the first or the first propulsion engineer at Lilium Aviation, who has since, it's a $4 billion valuation, I believe, somewhere around there. But we had been ideating back and forth for years, and it was something that was instilled in us by our father very early on, which is, for all human beings, time is finite, and you really get one shot at the plate. Life doesn't happen twice, or depending on how you define life, and depending on what you think about all things beyond life, this version of existence only occurs once. And so understanding that we will be dead soon, and understanding that the best thing we can do with our time is to improve the lot of the fellow human being not at the expense of the planet. And so we were looking at electricity, we were looking at power, mainly at small form factor liquid salt nuclear reactors. We were looking at transportation as well, Hyperloop, obviously, vertical takeoff and landing, electric airplanes. But it was a single moment. It was when we discovered that 1.1 billion people began the millennium malnourished. And the millennium was kind of this symbol of a new era. It was meant to be sort of a harbinger for change. I was only 7 at the time. But that was kind of a moment. It was a very jarring moment for John and myself. And from that moment on, we knew we had to do something to do with food. And to cut the story off significantly, we went down the path looking at traditional farming, outdoor farming. We looked at greenhouse farming. We looked at any way that you could produce plants. Of course, as I said before, plants are the basis of human health. And then we came across the concept of vertical farming. And the thing that
How old were you then?
How old was I then?
Mm-hmm.
23 when we came up with the idea. I think 24 when we incorporated.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not so unusual in Silicon Valley. One of the investors that invested in us says we're in the business of backing 20-year-olds. So it wasn't so unusual over there. But vertical farming, incredible value propositions, some of which you listed in the beginning: 99% less water, 99% less land, 0 pesticides, 0 seasonality, 0 heavy metals, 0 runoff, 0, not less, just 0.
Yeah. So
all of these value propositions, we knew we had to proliferate out into the market, into the mass market, but it hadn't yet. And the reason it had not is because the economics didn't work. And so we knew we had to develop a completely new solution, a completely new way of growing plants inside of warehouses. And that's what we set about doing. And that's what we spent 3.5, almost 4 years doing. And here we are today.
Awesome. So you first thought about this when you were 7?
No. Well, I mean, when I was 7, it was the turn of the millennium. And I remember it being 7, the sophistication of my thought when I was 7 years old was not high, but I do remember it being, for a lot of people, it's the year 2000. It's a moment for humanity. We've made it to the year 2000. What an incredible achievement. Let's usher in the new millennium with a better lot for humanity without harming the earth. That was kind of and this is obviously elementary school, but that was kind of the message that came through for me at the time from my own memory. And it was a jarring moment to discover there were still 1 billion people, 1.1 billion people struggling to get food. What an incredible fact.
Still are.
Yeah.
And so it was your father that taught you? You came here to basically serve other people? Is that what?
An incredible man. And of course, my mother as well. It's certainly not to discount her role in all of this. Great parents. But he, rather than taking us to the beach or taking us to the water park for summer vacations, we would go to the capital of Australia, Canberra, where there were no beaches or roller coasters. And we went to the National Art Gallery. We went to the National Museum. We went to the National Science Institute. We went went to the National Library, went to the National War Memorial. This is where we spent our time growing up. And it's just, by matter of being there, the discussions that we have with our father talking about, Jackson Pollock's blue poles, chaos, order amongst chaos, and Mark Rothko talking about the depths of depression that the human mind can reach. These are the kind of topics that he would address with us when we were 8 and 10 years old. So it was a different upbringing. Of course, sport was heavily involved, but it really was him that instituted this idea that life is finite. Take a big bloody swing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because one of the things I really believe, and of course you probably know that by now, is my philosophy, is that we all come here to serve other souls. And I very clearly heard you say that earlier, but that was just my hearing. But I thought it is. You felt that way.
Well, I mean, what else is there?
Yeah, what else is there?
Yeah, I mean, I forget the specific quote.
I mean, what else there is being selfish and just gobbling it all up yourself, and then turning around one day and going, "What am I doing? Why am I here?" And then you ask the question. Exactly.
Maybe too late, but I mean, you arrive naked and you leave naked. You arrive with nothing and you leave with nothing. So what is there in between? What is the value that you can provide?
That you can
your
contribute.
Surroundings.
Exactly.
Exactly. And that value is to living things. And humans, of course, to top on that list, but it goes very much beyond human beings. Provide value for living beings, improve the lot of life for living beings. I think that's
for sure.
Most fundamental.
Sure. So you felt this way since you were a young boy? You felt...
I mean, I really try not to map my current mind.
No, I'm just asking you now. I want to know, how did you become Sam? Were you planet sensitive, animal sensitive?
No. I mean, when I was growing up, no. I mean, when I was growing up, basically, it was just me and my mates and tennis. That was it. I mean, of course, all the stories with my dad, and that's all woven in there. It was a fantastic and dense childhood. But it only came much later, actually, when getting to Santa Clara University and being around those people, and obviously the Jesuit values at Santa Clara University are very much to give back and to innovate. And so that may have been instilled in me, but really it was just the questions that my dad asked us when we were 8 and 10, when we had no clue how to answer them, started actually being meaningful when you're 18, 20, 21, and hopefully I can do... yeah, exactly. There you go. There are infinite plant puns to be made.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was. There are lots and lots of things that contribute to the beginning of 1.1. So much of it being my brother. I mean, my brother was just an incredible human being. He's basically my dad reincarnate with his. At 18 years old, he's asking these philosophical questions. I'm 16, I'm just taking exams and having a beer with my mates, But, a lot of people influence me. If we want to go that deep, I don't necessarily think that human beings have free will. I think human beings are a product of their experiences, a product of their environment, and a product of their genetics. But that does not absolve you of your responsibility to do the right thing. And that's a really important point that I think needs to come up. So I am unbelievably fortunate to be the human being that I am, and that is not an arrogant statement. I am just fortunate to be born in the family I was born into, go to the school that I went to, play the sport that I did, and now be where I am. But all along the way, it is the human being's responsibility to do the right thing. And that, I suppose, that was the philosophy being sort of drummed into us at 8 and 10.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What about you? I mean, what's your interpretation of all of this?
Of yours?
Yeah, what's your interpretation? During interviews, I often like to ask the interviewer, because you're a very, very intelligent person and you would have thought about this before.
So you want my interpretation of how you grew from a seed? Or
No. I want your interpretation of a human being's, you could say, responsibility.
Right. Well, I'm very clear why I'm here. And I have been for a long time. I'm lucky. I know my own purpose. So,
yes. Yeah.
In the beginning, it was to bridge worlds, bridge Western medicine with Eastern medicine, different kinds of medicine. And, but through those connections, I knew it was about connectedness. Mm-hmm. Yes. And through connectedness, then that grows, to be a much bigger thing. And then you're looking at the planet.
Yes.
pretty soon, through integrated medicine. Because once you allow in all these disciplines and the thought processes of all these other civilizations, you
Hmm.
begin to see samenesses,
And it's
and you
richer.
begin,
It's a
yeah,
richer pool of
and
information.
then you feel connected
Hmm.
with more people, and then you feel connected to the place I call one mind or cosmic consciousness, where all
Hmm.
things really come from.
Well, it's
Like,
funny that I suppose 20 years ago, the interpretation of that statement would have been very different. But to correlate to that, one of my favorite facts is that we are stardust, and
mm,
that's not a comment of grandeur, and that's not a comment of romanticism. It is just truly a fact.
mm,
The elements that you are made of were crushed, formed, and blown out of a star, and here we are. So that
mm,
interconnectedness is a fact; it's not a theory.
yeah,
So anyway, I'm fascinated by those topics also.
yeah. But it's like, if you, for instance, I'll have these thoughts like connectedness, oneness. I put it in my book, and then I go to my conferences and I hear people talking the same words. So
Hmm.
that's a perfect example of one mind. It's
Yes.
there, and then it'll come down. It usually comes to me. It's just me. I'm like a
Hmm.
firster, and I'll get things, but then I say, "Oh, there, it's rolling into reality. There we go."
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing,
Yeah,
no doubt. Fantastic. I appreciate your perspective on that. But yeah, it was a funny upbringing. It was a fun and funny upbringing, Dr. Randall.
yeah. Well, it sounds like your father planted a lot of really good seeds in you guys, and you had the intellect and the soil, so to speak, to grow them.
If we want to talk about soil, I think that's where my mother would come in. I mean, the purest human being
Mm,
on planet Earth, purest human being on planet Earth. Uh, Always looking for the best in people, always finding the
hmm,
positive situations, always with a smile on her face, and bringing the energy level inside of rooms upward. So, as I said, I mean, I can't I can't count enough of my blessings regularly enough. Incredible
beautiful.
parents.
Yeah, very nice. So, did you come here to play tennis, and then you got the
Mhm.
idea afterwards, or you
Oh yeah,
had the
yeah.
idea, you came here to play tennis, and then it just grew?
I mean, it's. I definitely came here just to play tennis. I mean,
Hmm.
when I first entered the borders of the United States, my understanding was that I was going to play tennis and do an accounting or a finance degree. And then, that didn't really jive so much, I think, with my personality. So then I just started doing random subjects. And this is in Central Valley, this is in Fresno, California. I'm doing things like human sexuality, macro and microeconomics, all over the place, searching, I suppose. And it was actually external to all of this. I would sit in my bed in Fresno and just research things. And I came across the topic of nanotechnology. And nanotechnology, this is 2012. Nanotechnology had all of this promise. It hasn't really yet taken off. It had all of this promise. Imagine the power you could have if you could assemble particles of that size to do work. And so that's what captured my imagination. And there were opportunities to Hawaii. There were opportunities, I think, at Portland for tennis, and Fresno, of course. But I went over to Santa Clara University because they had a nanotechnology lab. Now, lo and behold, I never stepped foot inside that nanotechnology lab, but that was the thing that really caught my attention and got me into engineering. I had no idea that engineers had to be good at math or good at physics. I had no idea that engineers made good money. I just thought engineering's awesome. That was the depth. And again, like that was the depth of me at 20. Imagine the depth at 7. So I got into engineering. I sort of talked my way into the engineering school, promising them that I'm just going to work my butt off to get through. And played tennis at Santa Clara. I was the captain there for 2 years and came through with mechanical and robotics. And it was during that time, we did a couple of projects. For example, it's very difficult for people in wheelchairs that have guide dogs to open doors. So we developed a product that could assist them in opening the door that the dog could disengage. These kinds of things. We started to, and then you see the experience of someone doing that, and a very positive experience. That's with thank you very much. Gee, that was a rewarding experience for me. So it's just like this very juvenile 20-year-old mind putting two huge Lego pieces together, thinking, oh my goodness, when you help people, it's not only them that feels good, you feel good, and you've provided value to humanity. So I suppose it was either a snowball or a waterfall effect from there, but it was just a realization that, what, like you're saying, what you do can have a material impact on the quality of life for your fellow human.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And
it
I'm
was
sure you're aware of the research that shows when you do something, an act of kindness, whether it's even random, it does
yes,
affect your chemistry beneficially.
right.
And that's not why we do it in the first place, but it ends up. And there's a reason behind that. You know, why would it raise our immunity? And why would it raise our good neurotransmitters if it wasn't something we were supposed to do?
Exactly.
You know,
It is valuable to you and the community that you act in such a way. I mean, Denzel Washington at a commencement speech, I think he said, the most selfish thing that you can possibly do is help someone else. And I don't often reference celebrities too often for philosophical ideas, but I think he hit the nail on the bloody head. The most selfish thing you can do is to help someone else, because
he's saying it inside out, but the Dalai Lama would just say, "Be kind to everyone."
Exactly. But I think that was an effective way to communicate that to a graduating class.
Yeah, that's cute.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
So
and there's one other quote which was really formative, and getting down to those first principles in logic. If not you, then who? Mm-hmm. If not now, then when? You can't. What are the answers to those questions? It's me and now.
Mm-hmm.
You
know, my sister says that I've always been like that. Like when they took the Nebraska fields and they plowed them down and the deer went away, I would cry and I'd say, we can't let the deer go away. When the deer go away, we'll go away. And that's what a Native American would say. You know, things like that. I would worry about the planet and the land and the state of the planet clear back in the 50s. You know, when I was growing up as a little girl.
That's early.
And now when I call my sister today and I say, we got to do this and that, Mom, she goes, you've been saying that since you were 5, so that's an example of one mind.
Yep. Well, it's very clear that you had your trajectory from much earlier than I did.
Well, I had my sports. Yeah. But anyway, so tell me, so how did the actual process, because I know you guys have gone through so much different experimentation within Willow itself to figure out the right nutrients. You use mineral boards, right? And you figure out the right nutrients and then you alter it or to get the best growth. And you have these machines that can actually pick up little like microscopic almost diseases early on and catch it and get it out of there. And
I mean, so the name of the game here is to grow the highest quality plant on earth. That's the name of the game, as I mentioned before. And in order to do so, you need to control the plant's experience. You need to give it exactly what it desires in order for it to grow optimally.
But it's biomimicry. So it's the opposite of what people think of as control. Like control now in today's world is throw a bunch of Monsanto on it and that's their version of control. The plants grow bigger until you can't put enough chemicals and then it all dies.
That's right.
And there are no microbiomes in there. So
the plant feels like it's on holiday.
The
plant is getting everything, and it is exactly what you're saying. It's biomimicry. We mimic the lighting it would expect, the wavelengths, the intensities. We mimic the temperatures and the CO2 that it desires, and the water flow rates, and the nutrient compositions, and the pHs, and the electrical conductivities. All of these things we spend a lot of time iterating on to make sure that it's exactly what the plant wants. And as one of the first things I said during this conversation is, in and of itself, the plant is sufficient. And when the plant is born, when that seed cracks, it is, like human beings, it is 100% potential. And all you are trying to do is to minimize the drops from its 100% potential, if that makes sense. So we use lighting, we use LED lighting, we use HVAC systems, irrigation systems, and robots to give that plant exactly what it needs. So at the end of the day, we can provide a product that is unquestionably the highest product you can possibly get access to.
Awesome. And so the whole idea is to have farm fresh, correct me if I'm wrong, plant food and have it go directly to the consumer.
That's right. So, I mean, starting from the beginning, we developed the technology. People would come through and taste it and say, can I just get access to this? Can you guys just put it in a box and send it to me? And that was really the origin story. It was a market demand for this product. So we started to package it up and send it to people. And we've got, quite a few of those members now. We have quite a few people on a wait list as well. And what we're building is a complete personalized farming experience. I mean, that's what we are building. And the goal of Willow is to personalize nutrition. And we believe what precedes personalized nutrition is personalized farming. So if you can personalize either through that member's choice or through artificial intelligence making recommendations, if you can personalize that flow of product, you can optimize human health. And that's really where this is going. And we're at the early stages, but all revolutions have an early stage, and we're very comfortable and very satisfied with where we are and where this technology is going.
So ultimately, we'd have people that had certain medical conditions, perhaps, or maybe just people's likes and dislikes, but
Right.
maybe genetic problems or whatever. But then we'd be able to remedy it with the right. I mean, food is medicine. Medicine. Hippocrates says, "Let your food be thy medicine, and medicine be thy food."
Here's the perfect segue. The name of Willow. The name of Willow comes from that same man. So one of the first documented and scientific uses of plants as medicine was willow bark from the willow tree with the salicylic acid, which of course Bayer in the 1890s turned into aspirin, but still that's the basis of aspirin, salicylic acid, a different form of it. And so that was he would give it to laboring women. That is the first documented and scientific use of plants as medicine. And he reminded us from 2,500 years ago exactly where we should be looking if we're looking for human health.
Right.
Yeah. And that's what we want to. That's what we are building into the service. Is that you might have your Apple Watch, you might have a glucose monitor, you might have 23andMe, you might have regular microbiome tests. All of that data will give you an increasingly complete picture of that individual's biology, and then we can match that to our farming system to make sure you're getting exactly what you want, exactly what you need. Exactly when you need it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the goal.
And then you're or maybe you are doing it. I heard some talk about growing medicinal herbs a while ago.
Oh, yes. So that's because we control the plant's experience. In the same farm, we can be growing a product from Liguria in Italy and a product from Adelaide in Australia. We can have all of these different environments growing all these different crops. So we can start to bring in these extremely nutrient-dense Eastern herbal remedies. Mm-hmm. We can start to bring them into the system. Eventually, we bring in cannabis, CBD into the system. And where this goes, logically, if you just follow the train, this goes all the way to the point where we're growing the biopharmaceutical products. So these are real pharmaceutical grade products. These are real vaccines. For example, the COVID-19 vaccine can be grown inside of an N-benth tobacco plant. You can grow these pharmaceutical grade products and vaccines inside of plants. By the way, N-benth tobacco doesn't have nicotine. We're not growing cigarettes, just as a disclaimer. But this is where it naturally goes.
Yeah. I would love to see you guys grow, or maybe you are, some of the Amazonian herbs because, the Amazon is so much at risk. And, I was quite active down there for a while. We had farms to, biosustainable farms that would give the money back to the local natives. And of course, they got ruined, not just from fires, but the gold miners or whatnot. But we've, and there are a lot of them that have gone extinct, but some of those medicines are priceless, and so many of them we haven't even discovered yet. But
exactly,
if they could be preserved in
it's kind of a cliche. Farm. It's kind of a cliche that 90% of Amazonian deforestation is agriculture.
Right. Yeah, but
what are we doing? We're cutting down biology to put different biology.
But also to grow cattle or grow grain to feed cattle, which is like wrong example. Yeah. Is what we're trying to not do here. Yes. What we are doing.
But it is, I know you're hopeful as I am. I'm hopeful. I mean, there are so many fantastic innovations that are commercially viable that are coming in to replace these forms of agriculture. And we're one example of dozens,
Right. And we need you all.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
So whatever we can do to reduce the carbon load and to make it cleaner to eat and heal ourselves, we need,
That's right. Yep. Totally in line.
So what's coming up? Anything?
So we continue to expand the Willow business throughout California. Actually, our next facility is going to be built in Arizona, and that facility is going to be feeding the west coast of the United States, and that's where we're offering that personalized farming service. And
explain that a little bit to my guest.
Sure, absolutely. So if you go on the Willow website, www.willow.farm, you can go down and you can request an invitation to be a member of this service. And when you request the invitation, we can send you out an invitation code, and then you could hop on the wait list. We're building a wait list right now for this next farm that we're building. Now, when the farm turns on, you will be allowed access to the Willow Personalized Farming app, mobile application. And that is where you will have your designated area on your app, and you'll be able to choose from all of the different crops that we grow to plant them on your farm. So let's take kale, strawberries, blueberries, a Mizuna mix, eventually cannabis, as we were talking about, tea leaves, herbal medicines, all these things. You choose from the list, you put it on your farm, we grow it for you. When you come back every 2 or 3 days, you can check on your plants. How are they doing? What's the photosynthetic health? How large are they? What's the nutrient composition? Because we can do that with hyperspectral imagery. We allow the member full transparency into what happens when these plants are grown. And that eventually, as time goes on, as we start to integrate those Apple Watch Health, Viome, 23andMe, we can start to make recommendations about what they should also be planting on their field. They can see what their neighbors are doing on their field, what crops they're growing and how they're enjoying those crops. They get access to what's called the Willow Market, which is where we're introducing all of our new varietals. So they can grab those new varietals as they're coming through our R&D cycle. That's what we're going to be launching later this year for the members that we're bringing in for this first phase.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Okay. So what's your dream? What would you like to see happen? How actually, before you tell me that, how much food can you guys actually make from one of these farms?
Well, increasing in size as time goes on. Our next facility will grow on the order of 500,000 pounds of produce per year. But as we scale this technology up, and we can grow a wider variety of crops that are more productive. But again, our desire is to grow the most nutrient dense rather than the highest yielding. There's a big industry focusing on highest yielding. There's a very small industry focusing on highest nutritional composition. So that's where we're playing. There are certainly vertical farms because they must. It is out of necessity. They have to focus on the highest yielding products because that is what's going to make the economics work in the end. They must. There is no question.
That's how the farmers do it now, is by weight.
Exactly. But that's the standard that they must be held to by investors, is that you must be economically viable, which is totally fair. It's totally fair, and they must choose the highest yielding products because we are interested. Now, that is not to say that they're not looking for highly nutritious products, and that's not to say that they are trying to find the most nutritious products. For example, Plenty up the road in San Francisco, I know that they're working very hard to grow the most nutritious produce that they can possibly grow. I know that for a fact. Same with most other vertical farms. But still, the fact remains they must focus primarily on yield to make the economics work. But those are the kinds of orders of magnitude. After this facility, the facility after the 500,000 pound per year is going to be 2 million pounds per year. And then we can just step that up, like, similar to the sizes of data centers, massive facilities where we can be growing food for the city.
Mm-hmm.
And, if I can segue into what's my dream, there are a couple of them. The most fundamental dream for me as a human being is to somehow get the per capita GDP of the continent of Africa similar to that of North America. That is the most fundamental desire. How we do that, we're trying to solve one tiny part of that right now, which is food. There's also energy, there's also water, there's also education. So there are lots of ways that we can attack that problem. We're currently coming at it with food, but I'll summarize it as follows, which is 3 main things. It's the mission of our business. 1.1 is going to build the largest network of indoor farms to grow the food, to grow the medicine, and to discover the plant genetics that nourish and heal 1.1 billion people. Now, that's going to take a while, but if we can grow food for much of the Western world, if we can grow medicines and vaccines for individuals that do not have access, 400 million people currently do not have access to very basic medicines and vaccines. And then finally, if we can discover those plant genetics that can grow in brackish or salty water, the ocean can essentially become your farm. And so that is my dream for this business, and it is my brother's dream, and it is what drives, I believe, the 80 individuals in our organization to do their best every day.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
What about you? What's your dream?
Well, my dream is to continue to bring people like you and other people on my show to connect and get thinking in the same direction. You're already there, so I don't have to work on you. But if we could get more people, to point their sacred arrow in a sacred direction is the way that I put it, that are aware of how many people do not have food, do not have water, that are aware of how really harmful our industrialized farming system is, to raise the awareness of people about these things, they're going to change. They're going to at least put their mind and their heart in the right direction. And if we get enough people that are putting their mind and their heart in the right direction at the same time, that's what you call collective consciousness. It's an energy. It's an electromagnetic energy that actually changes things. I think it precedes politics. I think it precedes all of this actual work that we have to do, of course. But the way that it's like all of the doors will fly open.
Yes.
The more people we get. Like I used to tell people when they come and see me back in the day, you got to eat organic food. Dr. Randall, I can't afford organic food. I said, you can't afford not to. And now I'm saying, the next level of that, they need to eat truly organic food. They need to eat regeneratively farmed. If they're going to eat meat, they got to eat that kind of meat. And take it away. That you got to vote with your dollar. And you got to vote with your energy and your heart and your mind. And so it's about education, but it's also about just getting people clicked on and passionate in the right time, in the right space.
You make a fantastic point. I mean, in the United States spends on average about 6% of their income on food. And in Europe, the average is 12%, and, look at the health. I mean, I'm not trying to say causation, correlation. I can do that. We can do that in different ways. But the state of health in the United States is so blindingly horrendous.
There's no question about it. 70% of disease is from malnourishment in our US of A.
Yes.
Which is crazy.
Astounding. I mean, look, like I wish the news cycle would just throw some spotlights on this right now. I mean, it's the same with agriculture.
Well, they don't want to because, it's called money, They don't want them to know. It's better if they're ignorant and they keep buying all this crap, just like big pharma and things like that. But more and more people are knowing.
Yes.
Look at Costco. They have an amazing amount of organic food. Then when I used to
Walmart, this is the best.
Yeah. When I used to recommend it, people would say, "You're from outer space." I'm saying, "No, you watch." Yeah. And so here we are, and it's here, and it's happening, and it's going to keep happening. And companies like yours are paving the way for us. We need all these options to make this place a better place to be. And I'm so glad you guys are on it. Like I said, you're already there, but we got to change more people's.
I think so. Yeah. Well, we are all
awareness. I guess I would say awareness.
Yes. Yeah. Totally agree with you, Dr. R.
But it's scary, actually, but it's not like the information isn't available to people. That they just keep doing the same thing and they don't look. They keep a lot of people busy worrying about, should I get a vaccine? Should I not get a vaccine? Or what's the next, pandemic that's going to come along? The way that we're going to prevent these pandemics is to clean up the way we do food.
Yes. And be healthy.
Yeah. I mean, that because, that's where it comes from. Those industrialized cow factory. I mean, it's just, you've seen that stuff. It's just crazy. Yeah. It's not clean. It's I call it eating our own misery. It's just abhorrent in how incredibly cruel it is. And then we're taking all of our energy and putting it into growing grain and you till that ground, and there goes the carbon. And you think it's these combustion engines. You can add up every combustion engine on the planet, including boats and rockets and airplanes, and it doesn't light a candle to the amount of carbon you're releasing from the ground. We were just saying, how wonderful it is that we're getting options.
Yes.
That we have options to regular industrialized farming, like plants, like your company, that we have other options for raising cattle, like regenerative farms, that we're starting to reach out there and do. There's other types of like hydroponic farming and things like that that are organic, that are good,
That's right.
But Sam and John's product is just so pure, and I really look to it for giving us some medicines, and a medical sort of framework that we can treat ourselves, self-care, or our patients with. We can dial in what it is we need and get it delivered right to our door.
That's exactly right. Rather than sort of band-aiding the scenario, let's solve the underlying problem. And as you mentioned before, 70% of diseases come from some kind of metabolic disorder. So I'm totally with you there. And that's the goal. One of the goals of Willow is to close the loop on human nutrition.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I have some ideas to share with you, but we can do that later.
Well, I was going to say, I'm interested from your perspective. If you were talking to a 20-year-old, 25-year-old, because the human brain can't keep too much information in the focal point for too long, what would you say that individual could or should do to make the biggest difference they possibly can? One or two things.
That's interesting. I do Instagram TV every Friday night at 6:00. And last week I gave my whole rundown on what a person should do.
Oh yeah?
To live optimally. The whole formula, from food to exercise to
sleep,
spiritual, to be compassionate, to meditate or pray, and even gave some examples of that, and all the way, the whole formula. So I don't know if a 20-year-old could listen to all of that. A 20-year-old, it depends on what sort of background that 20-year-old had. If the 20-year-old was someone like you, I think, that when you were 20, I think it'd be pretty easy to get through to you about what sorts of foods you might pick, to be healthier. And I have some young people like that in my practice, and they're open to it, but then their parents are open to it. So, but if you have some Black kid from the ghetto, or like that, sometimes they're quite bright and they're really into it. So you have to meet the person where they are, And so sometimes you just have to get them to stop eating Kentucky Fried Chicken, and tell them what the option is for that. But you gotta start where they are with a patient.
Fair feedback.
But if you're trying to market to 20-year-olds, that's another subject, I think it would be a picture. I think it would be an image, or maybe two images. Like what you look like when you eat Kentucky Fried Chicken. Sorry, no names. And what you look like if you eat plants.
Yeah. Fascinating. That is an interesting angle for sure, Dr. Randall.
But you got to get to them fast, like within a couple of nanoseconds, or they're gone.
That's right. We have a short attention span. You got 6 seconds.
So I do it with a picture.
Yeah.
Some sort of picture.
That's smart. Tells 1,000 words. Hard to fit 1,000 words into 6 seconds.
Right. I don't even think you have 6 seconds.
It's got to snap them first 1 second, eh?
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm in the I call it the Richard Attenborough school or whatever. A lot of people say we can't do anything. It's over. It's 5 minutes to 12 or something like that. But He's more, if you ever listen to him or watch any of his programs, he shows you what's wrong. He shows you what needs to be done. And then he says, I think we can do this.
Yes.
We need every pessimist out there. If we could just get those pessimists that understand what's going on and move them over into the positive place,
Yeah.
Then, that's a lot of energy. That's a lot of bright light energy that we need to collect as much of that as possible.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. Pessimism is free. Pessimism is easy. Takes no energy.
Right.
Optimism takes energy.
And then some of these teachers, and they know everything, they say, well, I'm going to leave it to the young kids, you guys, and I mean, certainly the young people have put forth amazing demonstrations of passion and energy towards the planet. But they need us. Really, this effort requires all of us.
Yeah.
Regardless of age, regardless of gender, regardless of color, regardless of whatever, we're all human.
That's right.
And we were put here not just to serve each other, but also to be the guardians of this place.
We are stardust on a pale blue dot.
Like you said in the beginning, the animals and plants and things, we are supposed to be their guardians.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And when you start thinking of it that way, it's kind of hard to, think of doing cows the way we've been doing them and doing even fish, the ocean. It's said by 2050, if we don't change the way we're fishing, we're not going to have any fish. Can you imagine 2050?
Yeah.
You know that, right? How they do it with these, they just scoop up the whole ocean and they have this thing called bykill, which is like basically the rest of the ocean, and then they disturb all the coral reefs below.
Yes.
Has to be banned, and they've shown in areas where they banned it. Imagine this. The fishermen get more fish.
Can you believe that?
Yeah.
Work with the earth.
It's like
a custodian.
Yeah, take the pressure off her and she'll come back.
Yeah.
She'll come back.
It's funny. I mean, you heard the sort of the Malthusian, I'm not sure if it's a paradox, but the Malthusian theory that we're going to run out of resources. I mean, his prediction was much earlier we would run out of resources. He didn't factor in innovation. And I think that we've come from this place where we were not aware of our impact on the earth. The earth was just so vast. How could we possibly impact the earth?
Right.
But now we're starting to realize that we are impacting the earth. Right. And that's okay. It's not good. But I forget what the phrase is, but recognizing it is stage one of solving it. So we recognize it now, and we're making an effort to change it. I'm the same as you. I'm the same as I have the similar outlook as you, and similar outlook as Sir Attenborough. That it is well within our means to solve these problems. Mm-hmm. Well within our means. We're on our way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. Well, I'm glad that we're on the same side. I just did a show last week with Richard Green. I don't know if you know him, but he's very much in our school and very powerful guy. Mm. He's a politicist, and he wrote the 7 greatest speakers on the planet, the words that shook the world.
Interesting.
It's like you should listen to my podcast or watch his TED Talk. I don't know, one or the other or both.
Richard Green. Huh.
Yeah, but he's amazing, and he's a force to be reckoned with as well. So
I will. Absolutely.
So if you had a magic wand and you could change one thing right now, what would it be?
It would be to maximize the freedom of the individual. That's what it would be. It would be to maximize the freedom of the individual. Because when a human is free to do what they want and they have the economic means, the basic economic means, not just financial, also those other resources like education, water, food, it would be that economic capability and that personal freedom to pursue whatever it is that individual wants to pursue. And if that person is free to pursue it, and there are guardrails for those individuals that wish to do harm, I think that is the way that good proliferates at the greatest rate.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I think freedom, and that's something that the US got right. Many things, of course, the US got wrong because the US is comprised of human beings that make mistakes and do bad things, of course. But I think that's something that the United States got right very early on in human history, in the 1700s, is that it is the freedom of the individual unleashes the greatest good upon humanity. And having the capability to pursue one's own happiness is something very special that should be preserved. And that is not the case for many of these countries around the world. In fact, there is a strong correlation between the countries where the average person does not have the rights or the means to rise. And the beauty of the United States is that you do have the rights and you do have the means to rise. And so my wish would be, one of the avenues, of course, is to go into politics and go into government. That is not my desire at the current stage, but eventually it may be, and that would be to somehow figure out a way to unleash the freedom of the individual, because a collection of human beings do not have a small collection of human beings should not have the power to exert their opinions or their beliefs on the masses. The masses should be free to do their own work, and that would be my fundamental goal, because I think all other problems solve themselves if individuals have the freedom and the economic license to solve the problem.
That's very beautiful. Thank you. That
would be my magic wand wish, and very quickly you would see that per capita GDP in the continent of Africa rise. That would be my second assumption. Yeah,
I want to help on that project too.
It's a long project, and I'd love us to be linked arms in that effort, Dr. Randall.
Yeah, well, I love Africa. So.
For sure. Okay,
any words of wisdom you want to leave my guests with?
I'm 28, so you shouldn't listen to me.
You've gone far for your 28 years.
So there was a very interesting Trite is right. There you go. Trite is right. There's a very interesting comment made. It could have been by Jordan Peterson, I'm not sure, where you don't necessarily want to teach your children to be nice. You want to teach them to be good. And there's a very distinct difference between those two things. And that is what I would encourage people to be, is rather than nice, be good. And if what you are doing is good, another thing that Jordan Peterson said is when you do bad things, you have no idea how bad it is. And when you do good things, you have no idea how good it is. So really try and err on the side of the positive as best as you can. Yeah.
Something I learned from the teachings of the Dalai Lama was about compassion, that compassion is not always, feel good. You know what I mean? It's, as a matter of fact, that's empathy.
Yes.
Compassion can sometimes be ruthless. So if you really care about somebody, you're going to tell them the truth, whether it feels good or not.
Yes.
And that's the right thing. That is
the right thing to do. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, you don't want to blast them out of the water, but just tell the truth.
In any in excess, all virtues become vice.
Oh, that's interesting.
So be good to your fellow human being and all living things on earth, and it is highly likely that you will lead a good life. Nice. That's all you can ask for.
So one more time, tell us how we can check in and how we can figure out how to get ourselves a farm.
So if you want your own personal farm, please go to www.willow.farm and request an invitation code. If you're interested in the technology, go to www.1.1.com. That's 1.1 spelled out ONEPOINTONE. And that's where you'll start to sort of get a feel for where this technology is taking us. So those are the two places I'd go. But just in general, keep an ear out for all things human health, because there are, Steve Jobs predicted it 10 years ago, the next big thing, quote unquote, is going to be the confluence of technology and biology. And that is well and truly beginning now.
Awesome. Thank you so much
Beautiful.
for
Dr.
coming
Randall,
on.
appreciate your time and everything you do for humanity. Have a great day.
I'm Dr. Gail Randall, creator and host of Soul Stories. I just want to thank you for listening to my podcast. I recently got a notification from the international podcast people, and I was astounded that so many countries are listening to my podcast in the category of alternative health. So thank you, and please continue to listen. I especially want to thank Egypt, Croatia, Japan, and Switzerland, also France and Ireland, because my numbers were quite high there. So keep up the good work and check out my Instagram at Dr. Gail Randall, and particularly check out my Instagram TV, where you can hear me talking about alternative medicine subjects and also see me. It's a very good show, and I think you'll like the subjects. It's on 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time every Friday, but it's recorded there, so you can find it there anytime you look. Okay, thanks again. I love you guys. This is Dr. Gail Randall from Soul Stories, and author of Soul Doctoring, Heal Yourself, Heal the Planet. I want to thank Saltology, our sponsor, at bathsalt.com, which fits perfectly into my medicine bag as it, like me, calls upon the ancient wisdom and modern technology to heal, especially with the stresses and ills of our modern times. The Bokek brand uses organic salts combined with organic essential oils sourced from ancient Egypt to provide a perfect remedy for your bathing ritual and healing from modern stresses. The Relief RX brand is a unique one-of-a-kind healing salt that uses organic CBD, treated with a unique emulsification process to create nanoparticles which easily enter the skin to most effectively heal and relieve aching muscles and joints. Whether from chronic inflammation or just a rough workout, this is the perfect healing bath, especially when you add the organic essential oils of neroli, lavender, eucalyptus, or grapefruit. Your body, mind, and soul will be lifted and soothed like never before. Go now to bathsalt.com. I also want to give special thanks to Larry Antonino and Agora Borealis Recording Studio for music and score, and also to closetotheearth.com for IT and computer assistance.